From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Brad Turner, in for Erin O'Toole. A handful of Colorado schools monitor their students with cameras that use facial recognition software. It's a security measure. An administrator with access to the technology can upload a student's photo, and then the system can use cameras around the school to pinpoint that student's location. More school districts across the state are exploring whether to adopt this technology, according to a recent story in the Denver Post. And it's highlighting a conflict between supporters who say it helps make schools safer and opponents who call it a violation of students' civil rights. Denver Post education reporter Elizabeth Hernandez has been covering this subject and spoken with people on all sides of the issue. And she joins us now. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Elizabeth, this technology sounds really powerful. A principal could use a photo of a student and ask where they are, and the system immediately says they are in the lunchroom. What's an example of when school administrators would need to use this technology?
Yeah, an example that was provided to me was, say, a special needs student frequently leaves the classroom or runs out of the classroom, and administrators need to be able to find them, or the student is hiding somewhere. In this instance, they could either upload a photo of the student or type in what the student was wearing, and the cameras could kind of pinpoint someone matching that description, which direction they went or where they might be in the school.
Wow. What's the advantage of doing that with artificial intelligence rather than having a staff member do it?
I was told that it's a lot faster than having someone kind of searching through, different cabinets or closets or whatever, to have the cameras pinpoint that. And then also, I think having a bunch of cameras everywhere at different doors and openings, it covers a lot more ground than a person can.
How do schools store the information they collect, and can that data be accessed by parties outside the school?
Yeah, I think as far as storing the data, that's a conversation that the state legislature is talking about when they're trying to figure out how to best regulate AI in schools. Schools are hoping in using this technology that they would be able to, for example, send live feeds of a situation. If there happened to be an emergency like a school shooting, they could send those live feeds of cameras directly to law enforcement, who could then watch the situation unfold and have a better sense of what's going on inside the school.
I want to talk about an unusual technology conference you attended. It was hosted by a company that develops these products and markets them to Colorado schools. You heard from school administrators from the Cheyenne Mountain School District in Colorado Springs and Ames Community College in Greeley about how much safer these products have made their schools. What evidence did those administrators give that facial recognition software is making their schools safer?
They talked about being able to find a student quickly, or in a situation where maybe there's a big assembly and a student is having a medical emergency, a camera can quickly find where they are and someone can get them help. Or, in preparing for something like a school shooting, they know that in this situation, they could easily send the camera feed to law enforcement who could better establish what's going on. So these were some examples, although when I asked for, specific things of what has this done to prevent a situation, a lot of them talk about, we don't want to give away security information. So it can be difficult to know.
Wow, it sounds so powerful. And I would think that day to day, it might change student behavior just to know that every move is being watched by a camera.
Yeah, I know that was something that Frank DeAngelis talked about during the conference that I attended. He was a speaker, and he had mentioned having to strike a balance between school security and also not scaring students with school security measures.
And Frank DeAngelis is the former principal of Columbine High School. He was principal at the time of the shooting there in 1999. All in all, where does he come down on this technology?
Well, he was talking about the need for cameras in general for school security and how much this could shave off of emergency response time. So he did seem to be a proponent of school cameras, and they were talking just about this emerging technology. So seemed like he was in favor.
A lot of the evidence that school administrators and the technology companies point to seems to be anecdotal. How deeply have independent researchers investigated whether this technology makes schools safer?
Yeah, in looking at research, there really isn't any definitive research as to whether AI cameras in schools make schools safer, which is one reason why opponents are concerned. They don't really know the effectiveness, and it's kind of something that is really new. And so there isn't a lot of research in this area.
There is strong opposition to this technology. The American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado told you they oppose using it. What's their reasoning?
Yeah, I know that there are a lot of concerns about privacy, surveilling kids in public spaces, and also concerns about what this technology might do for marginalized students. So, if you could upload photos of certain students and track them throughout the day, does that put a target on their back, or does that make them more prone to discipline? So certainly some concerns about that as well.
Right. And one thing I found interesting in your article was the idea that if a student is undocumented or has family members who are undocumented, that creates a new level of concern.
Right.
One of the districts using this technology, the Cheyenne Mountain School District, said they spent about $95,000 per building on these cameras and technology. What kinds of concerns did you hear about where that money is not being spent?
Yeah, when I talked to a national school security expert, Kenneth Trump, he mentioned that the best way to spend money on school security is to invest in people, whether that's school counselors or just more teachers or people on the ground who can interact with children rather than investing in technology. So I know that some people say, things like school counselors or mental health measures in school can be preventative for things like school violence or issues that you would need these cameras for in the first place.
Colorado has rules limiting how this technology can be used in schools, but those rules are about to expire. How eager do you think leaders in different school districts are to start implementing facial recognition technology like we've been talking about?
I know the conversations are happening. For example, I talked to folks in Cherry Creek School District who are really interested in this technology. And when I talked to different school districts, they said this is definitely a conversation happening among many Front Range school districts. I do think that budgetary concerns are perhaps preventing or are making it a concern as to whether they'll be able to afford the technology.
Elizabeth Hernandez is an education reporter with the Denver Post. We'll put a link to her recent story about this issue in our show notes and at KUNC.org. By the way, if you have feedback on this interview or any of our interviews, we want to hear from you. Email your thoughts to us at noco@kunc.org. That's NOCO@kunc.org. That's it today for In the NoCo. I'm Brad Turner. Thanks for listening.